Hi again then guys, and welcome to another look to the past of the Forza franchise with Forza Motorsport 2. Once again to another aftermarket car. There really are a ton of great aftermarket models in this game. Pretty much all of them are unicorns to some degree, but some of them were kept in the franchise later on, even up as far as now. Others as far as Forza 4, and of course a couple with Forza 3. Now this one is one of the aftermarket cars which, if I recall correctly, I think you win fairly early on in the game, and it's the AB Flug, or I've heard that it's called AB Flug, not sure. Of course, if someone knows for sure, feel free to put that down in the comments, but either way, you know what I mean. And it's an RX-7, of course an FD shape model. It's got a nice body kit, an interesting paint scheme. Not as much of a fan of that, to be honest. I'm not a fan of the AB Flug or AB Flug paint schemes in general, to be honest, on the Supra either. But what I am a fan of is the RX-7. The RX-7 is one of my favourite JDM cars alongside the DC2 Integra, and this one has a pretty nice spec to be working with. It's not outlandish, and even though it does have the body kit and the larger wing and all that kind of good stuff, it's still quite a modestly placed car. It actually makes a really good rival to something like the Tommie Kaira R or the Tommie Kaira Subaru as well. It's a 613 PI vehicle, which of course puts it squarely in the B category. And even though it doesn't have the same kind of power that the Subaru from Tommie Kaira or the Skyline from Tommie Kaira either have, or a couple of others also, it does have a perfectly acceptable 265 horsepower and 225 pound-feet of torque. So, similar kind of levels to what you'd expect from an RX-7 anyway, especially something like a Bathurst. But the weight is nice and low at 1240 kilos, and the horsepower per tonne is 214. Which, of course, it's not going to be massive because it's not an overly powerful car. Now, the price is 128 grand, or at least that's the quoted price, of course, because as I said, you can win this one. And so the question arises, should you use this or a normal RX-7? Well, of course, the normal RX-7, especially in the FD range, is actually a much harder car to unlock. You have to be, if I remember correctly, a much higher level to unlock that vehicle than you do with this one. Now, of course, the purity of the production version is more desirable to most of us. Certainly to me, I prefer the normal RX-7 over an aftermarket one, but at the same time, it is nice to have these other options. You've also got stuff like the INGS RX-7. You've got other AB Flug models as well, like the Supra. I think there are a couple of others, if I recall correctly. I'm not sure about that, though. And you've got plenty of other aftermarket JDM cars. You've got the aforementioned Tommie Kaira Subaru, you've got the Sparco Evo, a number of others, so it's very, very well placed. It's got tons of rivals to go up against. But what about how it actually performs? Well, that's the way in which this car really does set itself apart from essentially just a stock RX-7 with a fancy body kit. Because that's essentially what it looks like, but the reality is it's not. Partially due to, funnily enough, the body kit, because to go along with that wider kit, it has spaced wheels, of course, to fill the arches more visually correctly so that the car still looks proportional. Now, that does change the handling characteristics of the car, because you have this wider stance, the tyres themselves are a bit wider as well, the car can be lower and have this very squat, almost race car appearance, and that, even with reasonable power and torque and weight, can still make a huge difference, and it does. The body roll is significantly reduced, the centre of gravity feels lower, even when it doesn't necessarily have to be, and the result is a car which handles really well. This is a superb handling car. It's easier to drive than something like, for instance, the Aria Mimaya version. That car is faster, of course, but this one is more beginner-friendly. Now, overall, this isn't a model which you should go into the game expecting to have your mind blown, because it's not that kind of car. What it is, however, is a very nice alternative to some of the other JDM cars, both in the aftermarket world and the production world, and it's just a nicely set up vehicle all round. It's not face-meltingly quick in a straight line, and it's not going to shake your spine loose through corners, but it's got great handling, it's a pleasure to work with, the brakes are also very good, and the straight line performance, although not earth-shattering, it's fast. I mean, it's an RX-7, it's never going to be slow, and of course with a bit of tuning you could quite comfortably bump it up through the B class to the peak, or take it even higher if you want to. It's certainly a useful car, just like some of the others that you can win relatively early on can be as well. So it's a car which, to be honest, I understand why they didn't feature it later. It's not exactly a car that many people are clamouring to have return, especially not compared to something like the REM and Maya version, but it is still a notable car from the second game, and it is worth a look. If you do go back to Forza 2, check this one out. It is worth a look. But that's it for this pick overall. Of course, I'll see you guys next time, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.